Hello, everybody. How are you guys? It's time for another video about Jacksonville. And this one is going to be a fun one. Now, just so you know, this could be a long one because we're going to cover a lot of ground. And up front, let's talk about it. Just like the WWE, this is all fake. I'm going to make up all of this off the top of my head. So don't send me nasty emails or messages. All right, it's going to be the 10 worst things about Jacksonville. 10 worst. And of course, Jacksonville's been the subject of most of these videos, or many of them, over the last week. This is the second week. It will be the final week. And we'll move on to another city. Coming up with more baloney, more malarkey, more balderdash. Because it entertains me. And hopefully a few people out there as well. So let's get into it. The 10 worst things about Jacksonville. Number one. Now listen, I know that cities have lots of spirit, but every time you get on the city bus in Jacksonville, you have to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to Jacksonville. Not the Pledge of Allegiance to America. That wouldn't be such a bad thing. Okay? But the Pledge of Allegiance to Jacksonville, every time I get on the city bus, yes, that's exactly what will happen. And the reason they do that is they want that town spirit. They want that unity. And truth be told, it does help do exactly that. But that's why, in many cases, people are backed up on the bus, a line. There's a line of people because it takes 7 to 8 minutes to finish the Pledge of Allegiance to Jacksonville. Because it goes all the way back, guys, to the very beginning of the city in the 1500s. Remember, Jacksonville is one of the first cities in the entire country. And so, when you recite that pledge, you're looking at an 8-minute operation. Well, they might have 4 bus stops in that time period. So now that means that people have to line up to get on the bus. And they're on the bus, and there's 15, 20 people lined up in the middle of the aisle there waiting to do their pledge. And gosh forbid somebody loses their place or forgets a line. I mean, it's not unheard of to have 4 people shout out a line to them because they forget. Maybe they don't ride the bus that much. Maybe they're new to town. There's a lot of reasons, guys. And for that reason, I'm going to say that's one of the most frustrating things, one of the 10 worst things about living in Jacksonville. Now, number 2 is when you go to the movie theaters, due to a series of convoluted local laws, the smallest soda you can get is 128 ounces. Let me repeat that. When you go to the movie theaters to see the latest big hit flick, the smallest, not the largest, the smallest soda you can get is 128 ounces. Listen, I'm trying to cut back on sugar, and when you tell me that the smallest soda I can get is 128 ounces, let me tell you, I've done the research. There are very few sodas that you can get that don't have any sugar. And I'm willing to hedge a bet that even those that say they're sugar-free, really, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. It's kind of like those, some of these quote-unquote natural trail mixes. Some of these, quote, natural trail mixes that you might use as a snack or an energy booster during the day, they're like 75% M&Ms. And what are M&Ms? M&Ms are sugar. Sugar, sugar. Sugar, sugar. Okay? So there you have the people in the theater, and they've got these canisters, these kegs that are their sodas, 128 ounces. That's like 2 bomb pops put together into one super bomb pop, a Megatron bomb pop, okay? But it's just due to a convoluted series of local laws that were passed to allow people to have the type of sodas they want in large sizes. It was almost a protest vote against some of the limitations that they were doing in New York City and other eastern seaboard towns where they were telling you can only have sodas of a reasonable, as they say, size. Well, in Jacksonville, they're all about the opposite. And maybe it's part of that Southern rebellion inside a native Jacksonville resident. But they went the other way. They said, not only can you have large sodas, the smallest you can have is 128 ounces. So there you go. Number 2 on our list of the 10 worst things in Jacksonville. We're going to go long on this one, guys. We're going to go long. We're going to go 30 minutes or more. Number 3 on our list, if you're a churchgoer, you're going to fit right into Jacksonville because there's a strong tradition of church going in the South. The only problem is in Jacksonville, if you're a Catholic, okay, when you go up to Mass, meaning when you go up to take communion, that's where a Catholic person goes up and the priest hands out these hosts. Well, in Jacksonville, they give you a choice of 5 different flavors of Catholic hosts. And basically it's a small wafer, thin wafer they give you. Well, you got to choose when you get up there between 5 different flavors. And if you don't know the flavors, which are unique to the area, well, then you're going to have to ask, what do you have? And then the priest who won't speak will turn to the altar boy, and the altar boy will point at a display, a mini display of the multi-flavored hosts. And he'll say, well, we have banana, we have chocolate, we have peppermint, we have a nice sea salt and cheddar cream, and then we have barbecue, and I think was that 5? And then they might say, and we also have your basic diet wafer, okay? And that's where it's pretty free of salt, and it's kind of plain tasting. And some may say, well, that's original flavor. That's like the original wafer. So, well, you'd think in this case it would be a good thing, but what it does is slow. It's kind of like the bus deal. It slows down the mass to where some masses are 3, 4, 5 hours long. Wow, there goes the football game. There goes the football game viewing after Mass. It's, woo. So I'm going to put that down as number 3 on our list of worst things about Jacksonville. Now, number 4 is another tradition that goes back many, many years, guys. And it's when you purchase a vehicle, buy a car in Jacksonville, no matter what kind of deal you cut, and you're going to get a good deal. They're very open to getting you a square deal, a fair deal on a vehicle, be it new or used. Unfortunately, before you put your name on the dotted line, before you sign that paper, they're going to make you take out the bagpipes and play a little ditty on the bagpipes. And this goes back to a Scottish strain of soldiers that came to Jacksonville in the 1600s that settled and started a family. They started families. They are settlers, former soldiers that settled there, started families, and those families have had descendants for many, many years in the area. And for many years, most of the car dealers in Jacksonville were of Scottish descent. And that's why they make you play a ditty on the bagpipes before they let you walk with the car. Now, you say, well, I don't play the bagpipes. Well, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, because they've got a karaoke accompaniment, and they're going to give you a quick lesson on how to do it. And you better pay attention, because if you don't get it right, no car is going to be in your driveway. No new car in the driveway tomorrow. All right? And, in a sense, you have to look at it as local flavor. You look at it as an advantage. But you can look at it any way you want. I look at it as number 4 on our list. Now, number 5 of the worst things about Jacksonville is the educational system, okay? Because it goes up to 15 grades, all right? And so you go through the traditional high school, which ends at 12 grades. Then you go to 13th, 14th, and 15th grade before you can go on to college. Now you're in college, but you're 3 to 4 years older than your peers. And that's not that big of a deal at that age. But now you're in law school and you're 5 to 7 years older than you see what I'm saying? So it pushes your age higher above your peers. But what do you get for that? And why do they do that? Well, in the Algonquin days, that's the way that they did it, okay? In the original days of Jacksonville, you had to go to school for 15 years, and 3 of them were extended high school years. So why? Because they realized that these students were going to 12 years of school and finishing the 12th grade, what would typically be the 12th grade, and they didn't have any life skills. So they made them go to school for 3 more years to learn life skills so they could function in society. Now, in those days, life skills were hunting and trapping. Okay? In those days, life skills were building teepees and building lean-tos out in the bush. In those days, life skills was bringing down a moose with a sharpened stick, riding the moose for a day and a half while you stab it until it dies, and that's your dinner. Okay? So that's the things that they taught for the 3 years after your traditional high school. Because they sat around in the cabins and they sat around in the teepees of the time, and they go, our kids don't have any life skills, even though they went to all this schooling. And that extended over the years, over the centuries. And now in Jacksonville, you go through school up to 15th grade. That's number 5 on our list. Now, number 6 on our list has to do with daylight savings time in Jacksonville. As you know, most municipalities in the United States can determine how they want to handle daylight savings time. And in Jacksonville, they wanted to promote tourism. And that generally means having more daylight at night. So they extended daylight savings time by 3 hours. So rather than putting your clock ahead, all right, to accommodate the 1 hour that is normal for people that use daylight saving time, in Jacksonville, they went 3 hours. So now daylight was going on till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And that's what they thought would be good for tourism. But as it turned out, it was really good for tourism. So what do? They extended it another 3 hours. And they extended it another 3 hours. And then now, nighttime during certain times of the year in Jacksonville is only 2 hours long. And the problem is your body, the human body, is naturally made to sleep at night for 8 to 9 hours. That's the way it's built. That's the way it's made. And you can sleep during the day if you have a night job and stuff, but that is not the natural rhythm of the human body. Okay, this is a rhythm that has been established over centuries of human existence, guys. Thousands and thousands of years. You can't go against it. It's impossible. So when you limit the amount of nighttime to 2 hours, you're talking about driving your entire population into a state of nervousness, of anxiety. That's why when you go to catch the city bus, as we mentioned earlier, the city bus driver might be driving all over the road. It's not that they've had a cocktail, it's that they only had 1 hour's sleep. And when you get on the bus and those doors open and they look at you all bug-eyed and you can see the red lines in their eyeballs and you can draw a map of Jacksonville on their eyeballs from the lines, you know that they've been awake, really, in a sense, for 72 to 174 hours. They've been awake because they can't sleep. And it's not that there's any caffeine. You could do a blood test and test the caffeine levels, and there'd be no caffeine in their body. They're just not sleeping. They're like the walking wake, the walking woke. I'm the walking woke. Zombies walking around Jacksonville completely wide awake. They can't sleep. Their bodies aren't, they go to bed. They turn in for the night. It's like, good night, honey, smoochy smooch. All right? And they roll over and try to get some sleep. Well, it's still daylight. And the daylight is streaming in the window. And they look up at the ceiling and they go, Lord, please let me get some sleep. And it goes from there, guys. And, it's got to be one of the worst things about Jacksonville. Now, number 7 is an interesting one. And, it's a sports town. Let's be honest. It's a sports town. Okay? People love sports in Jacksonville. Look at all the professional teams in town. The Jaguars, okay? They haven't won a game for 37 years. People still come out in droves. They can't get this. They sell out. The Jacksonville Jaguars sell out. And the reason being, guys, football is king. All right? And football is such a king that Friday night football games have 100 to 200,000 people in the stands. And not only do they get this entire student body in the stands, they get the entire town in the stands, the entire neighborhood. So Jacksonville has 7 or 8 million people, and each of these high schools, they can get 100,000 people, no problem, in a Friday night football game. But that means that you're up in the nosebleed seats just to see your kid sit on the bench. All right, not everybody comes from a line of high school quarterbacks. Not everybody's kid is 300 pounds, 6'10". Not everybody's kid is a 4-second, 40-yard dash wide receiver that's going to the NFL. Some of them ride the bench. Somebody has to ride the bench. And so you got to support your kid to show them that there's honor in riding the bench because you rode the bench at the exact same school. And in fact, your grandfather rode the bench. You come from a long line of bench riders. And you go to the game and there's 100,000 people, and because you're a bench rider, even though your kid is on the team, you're up in the nosebleed seats. It's one of the most frustrating things about Jacksonville possible. You're like, wait a minute, my kid is on the team. They're on the team. Why am I up here in the nosebleed seats? If I lean back too far in my seat, I'm going to fall out of the stadium onto the pavement below. And it's happened. So that's number 7. Number 7, guys, in the worst things about Jacksonville. Now, number 8 has to do with the weather. And, of course, being in northern Florida, I guess you could say northeast Florida, it's beautiful weather. What's the one downside about the beautiful weather in Florida? Humidity. You got it. You got it. Who said that? Somebody in the back? Raise your hand if you said that. I see you back there. You got it. It's the humidity. Now, what's the problem? Well, the problem is you need to take a shower immediately after you take a shower. You take a shower, and then 60 seconds later, you're sweating buckets. And you're like, I need to take another shower. But I just got out of the shower. Sometimes you need to take a shower while you're taking a shower. That's why they have those triple, quadruple shower heads in Jacksonville. Because they know that you're going to take a shower while you're taking a shower. You're taking so many showers, your body is going to shrivel like a grape. You're going to have more wrinkles on your face than a Raisin Bran raisin. Okay? It's very frustrating. The humidity levels are such that your body will shrivel like a raisin in the sun because you're taking so many showers. And forget about a good hair day. Forget it. Now, I don't have to worry about it because I don't really have any hair. All right? I'm a man. I don't need to worry about my coif. Okay, I don't wear a powdered wig. I'm ready to go at any time because I don't have hair. I don't have to get it all parted properly and combed out. I'm a man of action. I'm ready to go. You wake me up, I'm ready to go. Storm that beach, I'm ready to go. Okay? At the dance, ask that girl to dance over there. The prettiest girl in the school, I'll do it because I'm a man of action and I'm ready to go because I don't have to comb my hair, guys. I'm ready. I mean, if I was at a high school dance, if I was high school at senior age, and somebody goes, I dare you to dance with the prettiest girl in the school, and I had to break out a pocket mirror to be able to check my hair and make sure the hair was in place, maybe take out some Brill cream and grease it down to make sure I'm all prepared and ready to go. No, there's no preparation. I'm ready. I was born ready, don't you see? I don't need hair. I just need my steel will, my conviction and courage. That's what I need. I've got that in gobs. I've got that in gobs and tons. Tons of gobs. Okay? But in Jacksonville, people that have hair, I mean, they don't have a good hair day and probably haven't in their entire life. The only people that have had good hair days in their lives have moved to Jacksonville because of the intense humidity. It's really trying. It makes you, some days makes you want to cry. But the tears won't come out because there's already so much moisture in the air. Your tears will just well up in your eyeballs 3 inches deep and will never fall on the ground. You walk around with teary eyes that never go away. And that's number 7. Number 8 of the worst things about Jacksonville. I think we did 2 number 7s. Let's do it this way. The next one on the list. I told you it would go long. All right, so one of the best things, let's enter into this one the other direction. One of the best things about Jacksonville is the history of hunting and fishing. That's one of the best things. They've got a long history of supporting the arts of hunting and fishing. Father will teach son, son will teach son. Grandfather taught father, father taught son. Son will teach his son, and it's handed down through the generations, mother to daughter, daughter to daughter, daughter to mother to daughter to mother. Fathers and mothers handing down the art of hunting and fishing and cleaning game down through the generations. It's one of the most honorable things about Jacksonville is this strong tradition of hunting and fishing. The problem today is that the city has grown so much that a lot of the game, a lot of the big game, the deer, the antelope, the mountain moose, okay, the high plains giraffe, the tubby elephant series of elephants that roam the grounds outside of Jacksonville, they've all been moved farther and farther toward Disney World. Okay, they move out. Their habitat changes because the city is pushing them out. I mean, you start building homes and highways and Starbucks everywhere. Where are the animals going to go? Farther out. And they're being pushed so far out, they're going to Disney World because Jacksonville's suburbs keep getting bigger and farther from the city center to the point where the animals go, we might as well just go to Disney World. It's right there. Okay, these people have pushed us so far out from our natural habitat. Disney World is right down the street in Orlando. And guys, it's one of the most frustrating things to have to drive from Jacksonville almost all the way to Orlando just to hunt big game that used to be just outside your door when you were a kid in Jacksonville. I mean, many people in Jacksonville remember the days where you could just open your front door and take a few shots at an elephant that's walking down the street. And then you'd cut that baby up, you'd have lunch and dinner for a month. Well, that's just the way it was. Well, those days are long gone because all that game is riding the rides down there in Walt Disney World. Some are playing golf. Okay? And it's a very frustrating feature of life in Jacksonville. That's number 8. Now, number 9 of the worst 10 things about Jacksonville. Number 9. It really goes back also in the annals of the city's history. And remember that the famous Arcade Fire of 1901 was started by the young kids dancing up a storm, slip sliding and toe tapping their way around the dance floor at the arcade at the boardwalk, which created so much heat from their feet that it burned down the building. And you might think, well, that's been a long time ago. It's probably faded in memory. It hasn't. It hasn't faded in memory. It's ingrained in the memory. A tragedy of that size, it's burned into the collective memory of the city that lasts for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And that's why they came up with fireproof shoes, fireproof dancing shoes in Jacksonville. So one of the worst parts of the city now, because it reminds you of that tragedy of years ago, is that if you're going to go out dancing, if you're going to go out at the club or at a disco or a high school dance or even just dancing in the living room with your honey, the city ordinance says you got to wear fireproof shoes. You got to wear fireproof shoes, guys, to dance because they don't want to go through it again. They don't want to go through that tragedy again, the 1901 Arcade Fire, started by those kids with their devil music, listening to that jazz on high speed, okay, dancing and slip sliding and toe tapping, flipping each other around on their backs and over around their bodies and spinning around. God is looking down on this jazz the jazz of 1901, and he said this is the devil's music. And many people believe that arcade fire was an act of God himself, telling people to get back to God-fearing and church-going. Get back to it. Don't be out at the arcade dancing to jazz in 1901. That's what he was saying. Get home. Get home to your kinfolk. Pet your dog and rub your kid's hair. All right, turn on the TV and bring up the Dallas Cowboys on TV and respect the Lord. Okay, he doesn't want. So now the city says, all right, everybody's got to wear fireproof shoes. Fireproof. You can't put on any shoes that are not going to burst into flame. They've got to be fireproof. And you can't take that fire retardant spray and spray it on your regular shoes. You can't. You're going to get arrested. It's a 5-year, $500,000 fine. And you say, well, that's harsh. Well, you didn't pick through the rubble of the arcade fire of 1901 in Jacksonville. You didn't pick through the rubble. Okay? Fireproof shoes. And number 10 on the list of the worst things about Jacksonville. And it has to do with just your average, everyday commute. And the problem with the average, everyday commute in Jacksonville today is that it has been doubled and tripled in length. Because the city has put in bike lanes, skateboard lanes, electric scooter lanes. Okay? Big wheel lanes, if you know what a big wheel is. They put in lanes for all of these different types of vehicles in an effort to promote healthy living, in order to promote a car-free lifestyle, in order to reduce the carbon footprint of the city. And those are all noble and honorable goals. But the thing is, guys, the electric car, and more importantly, the gasoline engine powered car, is still the standard of today. Most people need a gas powered car or to get to work on a gas powered vehicle, or at least an electric car or electric bus to get to work. But now there's so many lanes blocking the regular lanes. They're taking out perfectly good driving lanes and making them into bike lanes, big wheel lanes, electric scooter lanes, and skateboard lanes. And that's just the beginning. And I don't know about you, but when I drive to work in Jacksonville and I look around, what do I not see? I don't see bikes. I don't see scooters. I don't see skateboards, and I surely don't see big wheels in any of those lanes. And guys, it's number 10 on our list of the worst things in Jacksonville. All of these lanes for all of these vehicles that no one's using. And now I gotta drive an extra 2 to 3 times the length of commute to my job in Jacksonville. That's what the locals are saying. They call me, they tweet me, they email me, they text me. And they're like, Joe, make a video about these dang lanes. What are all these lanes? And it's just the madness of a city trying to cope with a changing world. But until that time, it's like, oh, I got to leave for work at 4 o'clock in the morning to get there at 7. Oh my gosh, guys, it's one of the worst. It's number 10 on our list of the worst things about Jacksonville. Well, what do you think? I mean, maybe you have something that should be added to the list. Are you a Jacksonville native? Are you a Jacksonville transplant? Are you a Jacksonville resident? Are you a Jacksonville visitor? What do you think? What is the worst part of living in Jacksonville? Leave a comment here on the YouTuber, or get at me, as they say, get at me on the tweet machine, on the Twitter, and leave a comment. Let me know, because look, guys, here's what happens. When you share your knowledge and insight, the whole community, all of us together, grows at the same time. Talk to you.